The rain came sideways that night. Not the kind that whispers against your window. The kind that punches. 38 degrees. Wind cutting through everything. Elijah Turner was walking home. 14 years old. Gray hoodie pulled tight. Sneakers soaked through. The left one had a hole near the toe that his grandmother kept patching with cardboard. He had $11.50 in his pocket. Everything he'd earned that day cutting 3 lawns in the cold. And then he saw the old man, sitting alone at the bus stop on Oak and 7th. White dress shirt, soaked flat against his chest, no jacket, hands shaking, not just from cold. His eyes were unfocused, drifting. He kept looking left, then right, then left again, like he was trying to remember which direction he'd come from. A cell phone lay in the drainage grate beside the bench, screen cracked, half submerged in rainwater, out of reach. He looked like someone who'd been dropped into the wrong part of the world and couldn't find his way back. Elijah stopped. Nobody else was around, just rain, just the two of them. He pulled off his hoodie, his only hoodie, and draped it over the old man's shoulders. The man looked up, blue eyes, red-rimmed, startled. "Son, you'll freeze." "I've been cold before, sir." "You look like you haven't." "I need to." The old man trailed off, looked at the street, back at Elijah. "I was going somewhere. My car. It stopped." His hand went to his pocket, patted it. Empty. "My phone." He pointed at the drainage grate. The phone was face down in 3 inches of gutter water. "Sir, are you hurt? Do you need a hospital?" The old man's mouth worked. "Memorial, I think." "Yes, Memorial Hospital." Elijah pulled out his phone, screen cracked corner to corner, and called a cab. Told the dispatcher, Memorial Hospital. Handed the driver $11.50 when the taxi arrived. Not all the money he had in the world. He had $6 more back at the trailer from earlier in the week. But it was everything in his pocket, everything he'd earned today. The old man gripped Elijah's arm as the boy helped him into the back seat, tight, like he was holding on to something more than a teenager's wrist. "What's your name?" "Elijah Turner, sir." The old man's mouth moved, repeated it. "Turner." Something shifted behind his eyes. Through the confusion, through the fog of cold and medication and exhaustion, something locked into place. Recognition, or the beginning of it. "Turner." "Yes, sir." The taxi pulled away, its taillights blurred red through the rain. Gone. Elijah stood in the rain, no hoodie, no money in his pocket, arms wrapped around himself, shivering, but smiling. That $11.50 was everything Elijah Turner had earned that day. He gave it to a man he'd never met. He didn't know it yet, but that man had been looking for his family for decades. But before I tell you what happened the next morning, let me take you back. The trailer sat at the end of Lot 9 in Pinewood Mobile Park. 14 trailers total. Rust on the fences. Puddles in the gravel that never dried. The air always smelled like wet grass and someone else's cooking. Elijah lived there with his grandmother, Nana May, 71. She'd worked at Pinewood Elementary for 30 years, the first 15 as a substitute. No benefits, no pension credits. By the time the district hired her full-time, the old pension system had closed. The new one barely counted her years. Her monthly check came to $740, trailer rent $20. That left $320 for food, electricity, and the thing that kept her alive, insulin. The long-acting kind she needed wasn't on Medicare's standard list. $280 a month out of pocket. $40 left for everything. Elijah's mother died when he was 3. Complications during childbirth. She was having a girl. Neither of them made it. His father left before Elijah could form a memory of his face. No photo, no letter, just gone. So it was Nana May, always Nana May. She raised him on rice and beans and library books and one unbreakable rule. You treat people the way the world should have treated you, even when it doesn't, especially when it doesn't. 5:30 a.m. every morning, same ritual. Elijah's alarm was the leak, a brown water stain in the corner of the trailer ceiling that dripped onto a metal bucket. Plunk, plunk, plunk. Some mornings he woke before it started. Most mornings it woke him. The drip would catch the edge of the bucket and splash onto the linoleum, and the sound was sharper than any clock. He slept on the couch. The cushions sagged in the middle and smelled like old fabric softener, the kind Nana May bought at the church rummage sale, 3 bottles for $1. The blanket was a quilt she'd pieced together from old church clothes. Patches of navy and maroon and one square of green corduroy that used to be Richard's jacket sleeve. Every morning he folded it in exact thirds and set it on the armrest. A made bed is a made mind, Eli. She'd said it so many times the words had grooved themselves into the routine, inseparable from the folding. First thing, he checked on her, cracked the bedroom door. The hinge caught. He'd learned exactly how far to push before it squeaked. 2 inches was safe. 3, and the metal groaned. He listened for the breathing. It took a moment some mornings. She breathed shallow now. You had to hold still to hear it. He'd stand there, one hand on the doorframe, bare feet on cold linoleum, and count. 1 breath, 2, 3. Enough. He closed the door. The relief came the same way every time. A loosening across his chest he didn't notice until it was already gone. Then the kitchen. The trailer kitchen was 6 steps end to end. He knew the count because he'd walked it in the dark enough times. He lit the front burner. The back one hadn't worked since March, and the landlord stopped returning calls about it in April. Set 2 slices of white bread in the pan because the toaster tripped the circuit breaker. The bread browned unevenly, dark on the left, pale on the right, but Nana May never mentioned it. He lined her morning pills on the table in order, the small white one first, then the oval blue, then the large yellow capsule she hated swallowing. She'd put it on her tongue and grimace and take 3 sips of water before it went down. A glass of water filled twice, because she always drank the first one straight down. She came out at 5:50. Same housecoat, same shuffle, her slippers scuffed against the floor in a rhythm he could have drawn on sheet music. Morning, my professor. Morning, Nana. She'd called him that since he was 9, and came home from the library, talking about bioluminescence for 3 days straight. 2 things you'd notice about Elijah's life if you walked into that trailer. First, the shoes by the door, sneakers with cardboard insoles. Nana May replaced the cardboard every Sunday night. She'd trace the shape of his growing feet with a pencil, cut the cardboard, slide it in. Never complained. Second, dinner. Rice and beans Monday through Thursday. Friday was special. Friday, Nana May added an egg, scrambled. Elijah called it the Friday egg. He looked forward to it the way other kids look forward to pizza night. And on the wall above the bedroom door, a certificate in a cracked wooden frame. Teacher of the Year, 1994, May Turner, Pinewood Elementary. She used to sing while she cooked. Hymns, His Eye is on the Sparrow. Richard would lean against the doorframe watching her like she was the only station on the radio. Now she hummed, low, wandering. Sometimes she'd stop mid-hum, trying to catch the words. Dinner was where Nana May became the teacher again. She kept a list, typewritten on onion skin paper, yellowed and soft at the folds, taped inside the kitchen cabinet. Vocabulary words. She'd pulled them from textbooks, old Reader's Digests, crossword dictionaries. The list was 4 pages long. She worked through it in order, 3 words a week. One Thursday, between bites of rice, ephemeral. Elijah chewed, lasting a very short time. Use it. The warmth from the stove is ephemeral. It goes away when you turn it off. Nana May pointed her fork at him. Good, but don't start with the next time. Stronger without it. She turned back to her plate. Magnanimous. He paused. Generous, especially to someone who doesn't deserve it. She looked at him over the top of her glasses. Who decides who deserves it? Elijah didn't answer. She nodded. That was the answer she wanted. Her body was giving out. The hands, the knees, the eyes that needed new glasses she couldn't afford. But her mind moved like it always had. Quick, sharp, waiting for him to catch up. Then there was the watch. A pocket watch, old and heavy, hanging from a cord around Elijah's neck. It didn't work. The glass was scratched. The hands were frozen at 4:17. But Elijah wore it every single day. On the back, etched into the metal in careful block letters, PFC R. Turner, 1967. Nana May told him it belonged to his grandfather, Richard Turner, a soldier, a good man. He died when Elijah was too young to remember anything but the weight of the watch in his hands at the funeral. Your granddaddy was the bravest man I ever knew, Nana May said once, sitting on the trailer steps watching the sun go down. And the kindest, he used to say. Time stops for nobody, Eli, but kindness stops time. Elijah didn't fully understand that, but he kept the watch on, every day, like a promise he hadn't figured out yet. The walk to school was 1.7 miles. The route took him past Meadowbrook, 2-story houses, lawns like carpet, SUVs and driveways, sprinkler systems ticking in the mornings even in October, garage doors opening to reveal painted floors and mountain bikes hanging from ceiling hooks, porch lights on timers, window boxes with flowers that somebody else planted, mailboxes shaped like little barns, basketball hoops over 3-car garages with nets that were still white. The sidewalk changed when he crossed Maple. On the Meadowbrook side, the concrete was smooth and even, poured in sections, expansion joints cut clean. On his side, the sidewalk cracked into puzzle pieces held together by dandelion roots. He noticed these things. He'd always noticed them. At 6:40, the school drop-off line started, kids stepping out of heated cars with 2-strap backpacks and protein bars, doors closing with that heavy, padded sound new cars make. A mother leaned out of a silver Tahoe and tucked a scarf into her daughter's collar. The girl shrugged it off before she reached the sidewalk. A father in a BMW idled in the fire lane, waving at a teacher through the window. Another kid climbed out of a minivan, holding a lunchbox shaped like a football helmet. Elijah walked past them. One-strap backpack, cardboard shifting under his feet. His lunchbox was a plastic grocery bag with a peanut butter sandwich and a bottle of water he'd refilled from the tap. He kept his eyes forward. Not angry, not jealous, just aware of the distance between the world he walked through and the world he walked home to, a distance measured in sidewalk cracks and lunchbox shapes and the sound a car door makes when it costs more than your home. He arrived at 7:02, same time every day. Morning in the trailer, 6 a.m., Nana May sat at the kitchen table and prepared her insulin. Her hands shook. They always shook now. The needle hovered over her arm. Elijah stood behind her, steadied her wrist, guided the needle in. He'd been doing this since he was 11. On the counter sat a notebook, composition book, black and white marbled cover. Inside, Nana May tracked every dose, every dollar, every refill date. This month's page had a number circled in red, $94 remaining. That's how much they still needed for the refill. 9 days away. We'll get there, Nana. She patted his hand, didn't answer. A knock at the door. Trailer Lot 7, arms crossed, lips thin. That boy of yours was playing music too loud last night. He wasn't. He was studying. And tell him to stop selling lemonade on the corner. It's an eyesore. Nana May's jaw tightened. Just barely, she smiled. I'll talk to him, Dorothy. Door closed. Nana May turned to Elijah, took his face in both hands. Don't you let anybody make you feel small, baby. You hear me? Yes, ma'am. Every afternoon, Elijah set up his lemonade stand on the corner of Oak and Fifth folding table. Cardboard sign, $1, fresh lemonade. Most people walked past. Coach Davis, the school track coach, stopped every Tuesday, bought 2 cups, left $5 under the cup when he thought Elijah wasn't looking. That night, Thursday, Elijah sat on the trailer floor, $11.50 total, 9 days to go, $94 to raise. He pulled the pocket watch from under his shirt, ran his thumb across the engraving, PFC R. Turner, 1967. I wish you were here, Grandpa. From the bedroom. He is, baby. Every time you choose to be kind, that's him. Elijah didn't know it then, but his grandfather's kindness, the act of a young soldier in a muddy river in 1967, was about to reach across decades and change everything. Saturday, Elijah cut 3 lawns. Mr. Henderson's, 1/4 acre with a slope that ran down toward the fence line at an angle steep enough to make the mower pull sideways. The old Briggs and Stratton coughed blue smoke every time the blade caught a thick patch. Twice it stalled completely, and Elijah had to brace his foot on the housing and yank the cord until his shoulder burned. His sneakers slid on the wet grass going downhill. He learned to cut across the slope instead of straight down, slower, but he kept his footing. Henderson watched from his recliner through the window. 74, bad hip. He came to the door when Elijah finished, leaning on the frame. Good work, son. I'll have your money next week. That all right? It wasn't. That was $4 Elijah needed today. But he saw the bathrobe, the medical bracelet, the pile of red-stamped envelopes on the table behind him. Yes, sir. Next week's fine. Mrs. Garcia's, the one with the terrier named Biscuit. The lawn was small, but edged with flower beds that required a hand trimmer. Elijah finished the mowing, then noticed the sprinkler head on the west side leaking, not spraying, just dribbling into the dirt and making a mud patch. He knelt down, unscrewed the cap, found the filter clogged with grit, cleared it with his thumbnail, screwed it back. The sprinkler popped up and fanned out the way it was supposed to. He didn't mention it. She brought him a sandwich, turkey, lettuce, mustard, and a cold soda. He sat on the porch steps and ate, slowly, making it last. Biscuit climbed onto the step beside him and put his head on Elijah's knee. Elijah held half a piece of turkey between two fingers. Biscuit took it gently. They sat there for a few minutes after the sandwich was gone, Elijah's hands resting on his knees, the dog's warmth against his leg. The empty lot behind the church, knee-high weeds and a chain-link fence on three sides. Pastor Williams paid him $3, stood on the church steps and watched him work, arms folded. The kind of watching that isn't checking quality, it's checking the person. Ely, are you eating enough? Elijah's hands kept moving on the trimmer. His shoulders tightened. Yes, sir. Ely. He stopped. The trimmer idled. He looked up. Pastor Williams had come down the steps now, standing on the grass. His eyes on the way Elijah's t-shirt hung from his collarbones, looser than it should have been. The pastor set $3 on the fence post, then another $2 next to it. Didn't say a word about the extra, just stood there until Elijah picked it up. Thank you, Pastor. You need anything, you come find me. You hear? Yes, sir. He didn't go find him. He never did. $5.50 from the day, plus $6 saved from the week, $11.50 total. His hands were raw, his back ached. He was 14. The rain started at 5. Temperature dropped fast, 38 degrees by 6. Elijah started walking home, 2.3 miles, just his gray hoodie and the watch around his neck. And then the bus stop, Oak and 7th. The old man, soaked, shaking, eyes drifting. He kept patting his pockets, looking for something that wasn't there. His lips moved, but no words came out. Elijah slowed, looked around. He could have kept walking. Most people would have. Elijah stopped. He pulled the hoodie over his head. The cold hit his chest like a slap. He draped it over the old man's shoulders. The fabric was still warm from Elijah's body. The old man's fingers found the edge and pulled it tighter without thinking. Son, you don't have to do that. My Nana says cold doesn't ask your name, sir. It just comes. Elijah sat next to him, called a taxi on the cracked phone. The dispatcher said 7 minutes. 7 minutes. That's how long they sat together. The rain didn't ease. Neither of them spoke for the first 3. Just two people sitting shoulder to shoulder in a storm. The bench was metal. Cold seeped through Elijah's jeans. He pressed his hands between his knees. The old man's shaking slowed. The hoodie was doing its work. Elijah's teeth chattered. He clenched his jaw until his temples ached. At minute 4, the old man turned his head, looked at Elijah, not the quick glance of someone receiving a favor, but a long, searching gaze. His eyes had cleared, just a little. You remind me of someone, he said, stronger now, his voice catching on the word someone like he was reaching for a name and couldn't quite close his hand around it. Elijah didn't ask who. He sat still, let the old man look. At minute 6, headlights appeared at the end of Oak Street, yellow, wavering through the rain, the taxi. Elijah stood. offered his hand. The old man took it and rose, unsteady, leaning hard but upright. Elijah walked him to the car, opened the door, helped him lower into the back seat, handed the driver 11.50 10, 2 fives, 6 quarters, 2 dimes, 3 nickels, a nickel short that the driver waved off. Memorial Hospital, he told the driver. What's your name, son? Elijah Turner, sir. Turner, he said it again. Turner. Yes, sir. The taxi pulled away. The walk home took 51 minutes. The rain soaked through his t-shirt in the first 2. 3 cars passed. Their headlights swept over him and kept going. None stopped. He made it to the trailer at 7:48. Nana May was asleep. He stood dripping on the linoleum, wrung out the t-shirt over the sink. The water came out gray, emptied his pockets. Nothing. He sat on the couch, pulled the blanket over himself. It wasn't enough. His skin stayed cold. He thought about the 11.50, about the insulin, about 9 days, about the old man's confused eyes and shaking hands, about how the man had said Turner twice, like the word meant something to him, about what Nana May would say. He lay awake for a long time. The leak dripped into the bucket. Plunk, plunk. The wind shook the trailer walls. He held the watch against his chest and stared at the ceiling. He didn't sleep well. Sunday morning. Nana May reached for the insulin pen, hands shaking worse than usual. The vial was light, almost empty. 4 days of doses left, maybe 3. Elijah opened the notebook. This month's page, the circled number, $94 remaining. Below it, his handwriting, the updated count, $83 remaining. He'd pushed the total down by $11 this week, then gave it to a stranger. Ellie, where's your hoodie? I left it at school. Nana May looked at him. She knew. Grandmothers always know. She didn't smile, didn't look proud. She looked at the insulin notebook, then at her grandson, then back. You gave away money we needed. It wasn't an accusation, it was a fact. Yes, ma'am. She pulled him close, held him against her shoulder. The watch pressed between them. And I'd have been ashamed of you if you hadn't. She held on, but her eyes went to the notebook on the counter. The number was still there. The problem was still real. Monday was worse. School. Elijah in a thin t-shirt. A kid in homeroom asked why he didn't have a jacket. Forgot it. After school, the lemonade stand. 30 minutes later, Officer Reyes pulled up. Ely, Mrs. Patterson filed a complaint. Selling without a permit. I have to ask you to take the stand down. Elijah folded the table, carried it home. That night, $6 from one lawn cut at lunch. The notebook said $83 remaining, 3 days left. He picked up the pocket watch, thought about selling it. The metal alone might be worth $30. That would close the gap. He turned it over. PFC R. Turner, 19. Ellie, don't you dare sell that watch. Promise me. I promise, Nana. He sat outside on the trailer steps, no hoodie, arms around his knees. That night, Nana May couldn't sleep. Elijah sat on the edge of her bed. The mattress springs groaned under him. Nana May's bedside lamp threw a circle of yellow light onto the ceiling. Outside, the rain had started again, lighter now, tapping on the trailer roof like fingers on a desk. She reached for his hand. Her grip was stronger than he expected. She held on like she'd been waiting for this moment and wasn't sure she'd get another one. I never told you the whole story about that watch. She shifted against the pillow, pulled the covers up to her chest. When she spoke, her voice changed, slower, careful, like she was reading from a page she'd memorized a long time ago and didn't want to get a word wrong. Your granddaddy, Richard Turner, enlisted in 1966. He was 19, sent to Vietnam. His unit, 2nd Platoon, Charlie Company, 18 men. Richard was one of 3 black soldiers in the whole company. They called him Preacher because he never swore. Not once. The other men swore at everything. The heat, the rain, the food, each other. Richard would just shake his head and smile. My mama can hear me, he'd say. They laughed at him for the first week. By the second month, some of them had stopped swearing around him. That's the kind of man he was. He didn't tell people how to act. He just acted, and the room adjusted. One night, a storm, just like Saturday. Their convoy was crossing a river, the Song Bee, brown water, moving fast, the kind of current that grabs your legs the second you step in. 7 trucks through the ford. The water kept rising. Third truck hit a rock. The front tire caught, the whole truck rolled. Men in the water. Most grabbed the truck bed, pulled themselves onto the bank. But one soldier went under. White boy, 20 years old. The current had him. 16 men on that bank, standing there, rain coming down so hard you had to squint to see, every one of them watching the water. Nobody jumped. The sergeant, Briggs, was shouting, "Somebody get in there!" But nobody moved. The current was too fast. You could see it bending the reeds flat against the bank. A man goes in, he might not come out either. The water was chest high, brown. You couldn't see your own hands. The boy's head went under, came up, went under again. His arms weren't moving right anymore. Your granddaddy jumped. He went in from the bank, didn't take off his boots, didn't set down his rifle. The water hit him waist high. The current shoved him sideways, hard. He staggered, caught himself, fought it, step by step. The river bottom was rocks and mud, and he couldn't see where he was putting his feet. Then he saw a hand, one hand, breaking the surface. Fingers open. Richard lunged, got the collar, both hands on the boy's collar, pulling up with everything he had. Both of them went under. Richard's boots slipped on the river bottom. The rocks rolled under him, and his knees buckled. They came up, gasping, the boy's weight pulling Richard downstream. They went under a second time, longer. Nana May said Richard told her later he could feel the current trying to peel his fingers off the collar. He didn't let go. He locked his hands and pulled backward, against the current, against the weight of soaked gear, against his own boots filling with water, until his heels hit something solid, the bank. Both of them on the mud, coughing water, shaking. Richard's hands were still on the boy's collar, locked. He couldn't let go for a full minute. His fingers had cramped shut. Corporal Hayes, the medic, ran down the bank, wrapped blankets around both of them, checked the boy's breathing, checked Richard's hands. "You're going to have bruises on every finger," Hayes said. He was right. The sergeant, Briggs, walked over, stood in front of Richard, rain running down his face, didn't kneel, didn't help Richard up, just looked at him. "Turner, you're either brave or stupid." Richard coughed, looked up. "Maybe both, sir." They sat in the back of the supply truck afterward, blankets over their shoulders, Richard's hands shaking too hard to hold the canteen. The boy took it from him, held it steady, poured water into Richard's mouth. "Careful, the way you do for someone who just saved your life and won't say so." Then the boy said, "I owe you my life." And Richard said what Richard always said, "You don't owe me anything, sir." After the war, that soldier sent your granddaddy a package. The watch, the engraving on the back, and a letter for the man who jumped when nobody else would. Richard kept that watch every day until he died. Before he passed, he told me, "Give it to my grandson when he's ready." Elijah turned the watch in his hands. "Ready for what, Nana?" "I don't know, baby," he said. "He'll know when the time comes." Elijah held the watch tighter. He still didn't know what he was supposed to be ready for. But somewhere, 14 miles away, someone had just found out. Tuesday. Nana May's blood sugar spiked, sweat on her forehead, hands shaking so hard the water glass rattled. Elijah called pharmacist Linda. "Can we pay next week?" "Ely, I already let you delay twice. The system won't let me again. I'm sorry, sweetheart." $6 in his hand, 83 needed, 2 days until the insulin ran out. That night, Elijah sat outside the trailer. He held the watch and looked at the sky through the rain. He didn't pray. He didn't beg. He just breathed. Wednesday morning, 7:14 a.m. Elijah opened the trailer door and stopped. A black sedan, parked in front of Lot 9, tinted windows, out-of-state plates, engine off. Mrs. Patterson watched from behind her curtain. The car door opened. A man stepped out, gray suit, leather briefcase. "Elijah Turner?" "Yes, sir." "My name is Thomas Reed. I'm an attorney. May I come in?" Reed sat in the trailer. his leather shoes on the peeling linoleum, his gray suit against the stained couch cushions. He looked at the leak stain on the ceiling, the bucket underneath it, the composition notebook on the counter. If he noticed the gap between his world and theirs, he didn't show it. He sat the way lawyers sit, straight-backed, briefcase on his knees, face neutral. He opened the briefcase. The latches clicked in the quiet trailer, took out a white envelope. "This is from my client. He asked me to deliver it personally." A letter, handwritten on heavy cream paper, the kind of paper that costs more per sheet than Elijah's dinner. Blue ink, careful handwriting. The letters leaned slightly right, the way a left-handers do. "Dear Elijah, your hoodie kept me warm Saturday night. You gave a stranger everything you had. I want you to know that stranger has been looking for a family named Turner. Not you specifically, but when you told me your name at that bus stop, I recognized it. My son once told me, the ones who give when they have nothing, those are the ones worth finding, Dad. I found one. W.B." A business card clipped to the bottom. Walter Beaumont, Beaumont Foundation. Read, "Mr. Beaumont would like to meet you and your grandmother tomorrow." Nana May held the letter. "Beaumont," she whispered it. "Nana, you know that name?" She set the letter down, looked at the watch on Elijah's neck. "Your granddaddy used to talk about a soldier, a white boy he pulled from the river. Said the boy promised to find him someday. Said the boy sent him this watch." "The soldier's name was Beaumont?" "I don't know. Your granddaddy never said his name. Just called him the boy from the river." Thursday morning, the sedan returned. Elijah wore his cleanest T-shirt, the white one with no stains, ironed on the kitchen counter with a flat pan heated on the stove because the iron broke in February. Nana May wore her church dress, the blue one she saved for Easter and funerals. She'd pressed it the night before. She'd put on earrings, small gold studs Richard had given her for their 10th anniversary. She hadn't worn them in months. They drove 40 minutes, past the town limits, past the strip malls and the gas stations and the used car lots. Then the road narrowed, oak trees lining both sides, their branches reaching over the pavement and touching. Then a house, not a mansion, brick, old, warm-colored, the kind that darkens with age instead of fading. A wooden porch with 2 chairs and a table between them. A garden to the right, dormant but tended, flower beds mulched, hedges trimmed square, a stone path curving toward the back. Walter Beaumont stood on the porch, 78 years old, white hair combed back, slightly stooped. He wore a pressed shirt and slacks. His shoes were polished, but his eyes were the thing you noticed, clear, present. The fog from Saturday night was gone. He looked like a man who'd been waiting on that porch since dawn. "Elijah." He extended his hand. Elijah shook it. Walter's grip was firm but careful, the way you hold something fragile. "Thank you for coming." "Mrs. Turner." He offered his hand to Nana May. She took it, held it a moment longer than a handshake, studied his face. Whatever she was looking for, she didn't say whether she found it. Inside, bookshelves covering 2 walls, floor to ceiling. A fireplace with a mantel of dark wood. The house smelled like lemon oil and old paper. Above the mantel, a photograph. A young man in military dress uniform. Square jaw, steady eyes. The same eyes as Walter, 30 years younger. CPT James Beaumont, 1986-2019. "My son, James, combat medic. 3 tours Afghanistan. He didn't come home." Walter led them down the hall, stopped at a closed door. His hand rested on the knob for 3 seconds before he turned it. James's room, untouched, bed made with military corners, textbooks on the desk, anatomy, field on a hook, and half hidden under a book, an unfinished letter. He was writing this the night before his last deployment. "To me." Walter's thumb pressed against the paper's edge. He didn't finish it. He set it back down, exactly where it had been. He wanted to be a doctor, Walter said. Community medicine, the kind that goes to the patients. Walter closed the door. The click of the latch was the loudest sound in the house. They walked the garden. At the far end, a lemon tree, small, 3 lemons hanging, yellow against gray sky. James planted it the year he deployed. Told me, take care of it till I get back, Dad. His hand rested on the lowest branch. Not picking, not testing, just holding it the way you'd hold a railing on a porch where someone used to stand. Elijah looked at the lemons, looked at Walter's hand, the knuckles white against the bark. I'll help you take care of it, sir. Walter's hand loosened on the branch. He looked at Elijah, nodded once, didn't speak. His jaw was working. Back inside, Walter sat down slowly, his hands flat on the table. I need to explain Saturday night. I wasn't testing you, Elijah. I need you to understand that. He paused, rubbed his thumb along the edge of the table. It was James's birthday, October 14th. I visit his grave every year, same time. I bring sweet tea. He never liked flowers. I was driving home, Route 9. The transmission gave out near the mile marker by the overpass. Just stopped. I left my jacket on the seat and started walking. I thought there was a gas station half a mile east. There isn't. I had my phone, but I dropped it somewhere on the road. I didn't realize until I reached for it. He looked at the window, the garden, back. The rain started, and I take medication, Aricept, early-stage memory lapses. The cold makes it worse. By the time I reached that bus stop, I couldn't remember which direction I'd been walking. I sat down because I didn't know which way to go. My phone was somewhere behind me in a drainage grate. My car was, I wasn't sure. He looked at Nana May. This was not a test. This was an old man lost in the rain. Nana May held his gaze, nodded. James used to say, "The ones who give when they have nothing, Dad, those are the ones worth finding." After he died, I started the Beaumont Foundation. Education, healthcare, all of it dedicated to one idea, finding people like that. I've been looking for 6 years, but I've also been looking for something else. For longer. He leaned forward. 3 months ago, my investigator found an obituary, digitized from the Montgomery Advertiser's archive, just put online last year. Richard Allen Turner, Vietnam veteran, survived by wife May, daughter Patricia, grandson Elijah, but no address, no phone number. The trail ended at a P.O. box that was closed. I was in this area trying to narrow the search when my car broke down. And then a boy named Turner gave me his hoodie. He opened a folder. Documents. Official letterhead. Full scholarship, Elijah. High school through college. Beaumont Fellowship. He opened a second folder. Medical documents. Your grandmother's insulin, diabetes treatment, medication, all of it. Administered through a protected medical trust. Not a gift, Mrs. Turner. A trust. Reed has the documents. Reed opened his briefcase. Laid 3 stacks of paper on the table. Blue tabs marking signature lines. He spoke the way lawyers speak when they want to be understood, not admired. The trust covers medical premiums, prescription costs, property taxes, and home maintenance. It's structured as a 10-year instrument with automatic renewal. Your signatures are required on pages 4, 11, and 17. I've flagged them. He slid the first stack toward Nana May. This is the medical trust. This page here details what's covered. Everything your current Medicare plan doesn't include. Nana May looked at the papers. Didn't touch them. Her hands were in her lap. I don't accept charity, Mr. Beaumont. This isn't charity, Mrs. Turner. This is a debt, and I'm 58 years late paying it. A debt. Your husband saved my life. What I'm offering doesn't come close to settling it, but it's a start. Nana May's jaw worked. She looked at the watch on Elijah's neck, at the photograph of James on the wall, at Walter's hands still shaking even in the warmth. Richard wouldn't have wanted us to take more than what's owed. Mrs. Turner, if your husband were here, he'd say the same thing he said to me in that river. You don't owe me anything, sir, but I do. I owe him everything. She held his gaze for a long time. Her fingers moved to the table edge, then to the papers. She turned to the first flagged page. Read it. Turn to the second. Read that too. She wasn't skimming. She was reading every line. Then, show me the rest of them. Reed walked her through each document. Nana May asked 2 questions. One about the renewal clause, one about whether Elijah could lose the scholarship if his grades dropped. Reed answered both. Walter stayed quiet. Let her work. She picked up the pen, held it for a moment, looked at Elijah. Then she signed. But what happened next? What happened in the next 3 minutes in that room? That's the part of this story that will stay with you. Walter's eyes moved to Elijah's neck, to the cord, to the pocket watch. "Elijah, may I see that watch?" Elijah lifted the cord over his head, handed it to Walter. Walter held it with both hands, turned it over, slowly. The scratched metal, the block letters. PFCR Turner 67. Walter stopped breathing. His jaw tightened. His eyes went red. He didn't blink. His thumb traced the letters, one by one. PFC, the pad of his thumb moving across the grooves like he was reading them by touch, the way he had when the engraving was fresh. He'd had them etched himself. In a watch shop in Baltimore, November 1968. A small shop on Pratt Street with a bell above the door. He remembered the jeweler's name, Hal Wexler. Thick glasses, ink-stained apron. He remembered Hal holding the watch up to the lamp, turning it, saying, "Block letters or script?" He remembered answering, "Block, he's a soldier." He remembered the cost, $750. He remembered writing the check and his hand shaking, the same shake he had now. He set the watch on the table, pressed both palms flat, steadied himself. Then he stood, walked to the wooden cabinet in the corner, old oak, brass handles darkened with years. His hand rested on the bottom handle. He didn't open it. Nana May watched him. Elijah watched him. The room was so quiet they could hear the lemon tree brushing against the window outside. 10 seconds. 15. His fingers tightened on the handle. He opened the bottom drawer. Inside, folded papers, a velvet pouch, a stack of letters tied with string. His hands moved past them, reached to the back corner, found the edge of something flat, lifted it out. A photograph, black and white, laminated. The lamination was clouded at the corners, handled too many times. He carried it to the table, set it next to the watch. 2 soldiers, young, soaking wet, muddy riverbank, one black, one white, arms around each other's shoulders, grinning, alive. Behind them, the blurred shape of a truck and a river the color of coffee. The white boy was thinner than you'd expect. The black soldier was taller, strong-jawed, eyes steady even through the grin. On the back, in faded blue ink, R. Turner and W. Beaumont, Songby River, 1967, the day he saved my life. Walter sat down, like a man setting down a weight he'd carried for half a century. His hands went to the table, found the photograph, found the watch. He placed them side by side, aligned them, the way you arrange things on a memorial you've been building in your head for decades. "I need to tell you something about that night." He paused. His eyes stayed on the photograph, on the 2 boys who used to be young. "When I went under the second time, when the water closed over my head, everything went dark. The current rolled me. I didn't know which way was up. I opened my mouth to breathe and got water. I could hear the river, a roaring, like static. I remember thinking, this is it. This is where I die. In brown water, in a country I can't pronounce the name of. And nobody back home will know how it happened." He stopped, swallowed. And then I felt his hand on my collar, pulling so hard the fabric cut into my neck. Walter touched the left side of his neck, pulled down the collar of his shirt, a thin white line, faded but visible, running just below the jaw. "That's how hard your grandfather held on, 58 years, and the scar is still there. I've had doctors ask me about it. I always say the same thing. A friend gave it to me." He let the collar go. When we got to the bank, when I could breathe again, I looked at him. He was on his hands and knees in the mud, coughing, shaking, his uniform torn at the shoulder. And he looked at me, and you know what he said? He said, "You all right, sir?" He nearly drowned saving me, and the first thing out of his mouth was asking if I was all right. Walter's voice broke on the last word. He pressed his lips together, steadied himself. "And the watch." The hand stopped at 4:17. "That's the time I went under." The watch was in Richard's pocket when he jumped in. The river killed the mechanism. 4:17 p.m., November 12, 1967. The exact minute your grandfather decided my life was worth drowning for. Nana May stood, slowly, her hand on the table edge first, pressing down hard enough that the wood creaked, then straightening, using her own will more than her strength. She crossed the room, each step deliberate. The room was 15 feet across. It took her a long time. She picked up the photograph, brought it close to her face, close enough that her breath fogged the lamination, close enough to see the grain of the film, the mud on their boots, the way Richard's collar was torn on the left side, the same side where Walter's scar was. Her finger traced Richard's jaw, his smile, the way his chin was tilted up, the angle of a man who just did something impossible and hasn't figured out yet what it cost him. Her finger moved to his eyes, then to his arm, the one wrapped around the white boy's shoulders. She traced the line of it, from the shoulder to the elbow to the hand. She held the photograph against her chest, closed her eyes. "That's my Richard," she whispered. "That's my boy." Her shoulders shook. Years of wondering. Did anyone remember? Did anyone care about what Richard did in that river? Did it matter to anyone besides her and a broken watch and a grandson who never got to know him? Someone did, for 58 years. Elijah picked up the watch. His hands were shaking now, the same tremor his grandmother's had, though his came from a different place. He walked to the window. The afternoon light came through gray and soft. He held the photograph next to the glass. In the reflection, his own face appeared beside his grandfather's, overlapping, transparent. Two faces, 58 years apart, held together by a pane of glass and a cord around a boy's neck. Same jawline, same brow, same set to the mouth, steady, ready. He jumped when nobody else would. Walter spoke from behind him. Quiet, yes, he did, and you stopped when nobody else would. 58 years apart, same family, same choice. 58 years, a river in Vietnam, a storm in Alabama, a broken watch, a gray hoodie. And the same question asked twice by two different Turners, a lifetime apart. Why would you do this? The answer was always the same, because cold doesn't ask your name. The next morning, Elijah walked into the pharmacy. Pharmacist Linda looked up. Her face was different. "Ely, it's already paid. Everything, 24 months, prepaid." Elijah stood at the counter, opened the notebook, drew a line through $83 remaining. Wrote underneath in pencil, "Paid." What came after happened slowly, the way earned things do. Reed filed the trust papers. The house, James's first house, white brick, green shutters, a lemon tree in the back, transferred into a family trust for Nana May and Elijah. It wasn't a gift. It was a legal instrument with Nana May's signature on every page. She'd read every clause, twice. The move took 3 trips in Reed's car. They didn't have much. The quilt, the composition notebook, the shoes with the cardboard insoles, the cracked wooden frame with Teacher of the Year, 1994, behind the glass. The vocabulary list, still taped inside its cabinet, came off the wall in one piece. Nana May carried it herself. The first night in the house, Nana May walked from room to room. She didn't turn on the television, didn't unpack the box Elijah had set on the kitchen table. She touched the walls as she went, ran her hand along the door frames, opened a closet and closed it, opened it again, stood in the hallway and looked at the ceiling, smooth, white, no water stains. Then she went to the kitchen, turned the faucet. The water came out clear and steady, no rust, no sputter, no waiting for the brown to run through. She held her hand under it, let it run over her fingers, warm, steady. She stood there for a long time. Elijah found her in the kitchen 20 minutes later. She was sitting at the table, hands folded. The faucet was off. She looked up at him and said, "The water's warm, Eli." That was all she said. It was enough. That Sunday, she taped the vocabulary list inside the new kitchen cabinet. Same spot, left side, eye level. She smoothed the tape with her thumb. "Ephemeral," she said, testing the echo in the room. The word sounded different here, lighter. Walter drove Elijah to a watch shop in Birmingham, a small shop on 2nd Avenue, the kind with a bell above the door and a magnifying lamp on every surface. The watchmaker, a woman named Grace, Hal Wexler's granddaughter, had her grandfather's hands, steady, patient. She opened the case with a tool no bigger than a toothpick. Packed between 2 gears, a grain of brown sediment, river mud, Song B, 1967, 58 years inside the mechanism jamming the works. Grace held it up to the lamp, turned the watch over, read the engraving. She cleaned it out, replaced the mainspring, wound it. The hands moved past 417 for the first time in 58 years. Elijah held the watch to his ear. Tick, tick, tick. A sound the watch hadn't made since before he was born, before his mother was born. A sound frozen in a Vietnamese river and unfrozen in a Birmingham shop by the granddaughter of the man who'd engraved the case. Walter stood behind him, listening. His eyes were wet. He didn't wipe them. Grace looked at the engraving, then at Elijah. Your grandfather? Yes, ma'am. He must have been holding it tight when he went in. The impact jammed the stem. He was carrying this when he saved someone's life. Yes, ma'am, he was. Grace handed the watch back. It's a good movement, Swiss. It'll run another 50 years if you take care of it. Elijah put the cord around his neck, felt the weight settle against his chest. The same weight, but now it moved. 5 years passed. Elijah Turner, 19 now, sat in a dorm room at Howard University, pre-med, community health track. On the shelf above his desk, a photograph of 2 soldiers on a riverbank, a composition notebook, the last page reading no remaining balance, and a pocket watch, ticking. Walter still visited, first Saturday of every month, lemons from James's tree, sweet tea on the porch. They didn't talk much, didn't need to. One Saturday in October, Walter set down his glass. What do you want to be? Elijah leaned forward. The watch swung on its cord. A doctor, community doctor, the kind that comes to you. Walter's hand tightened around his glass. His eyes went to James's photograph on the wall. James said the same thing, those exact words. They sat quiet after that. 2 people separated by everything the world says should keep people apart, sitting together. Enough. A night. Rain again, the same bus stop, Oak and 7th. Elijah, 19 years old, college jacket, pocket watch ticking against his chest, walked past, heading home for winter break. On the bench, a kid, 12 years old, thin t-shirt, no jacket, shivering. Elijah stopped, looked at the kid. The kid looked up. Elijah took off his jacket, draped it over the boy's shoulders. You'll freeze, mister. I've been cold before. You look like you haven't. Why would you do this? Elijah touched the watch on his chest, felt the ticking under his fingers. Cold doesn't ask your name, it just comes. Richard Turner jumped into a river. Elijah Turner walked into a storm. Both of them came out changed. Both of them changed someone else. The watch is still ticking. It'll keep ticking as long as someone somewhere decides that a stranger in the rain is worth stopping for. When was the last time you gave something you couldn't afford to lose? When was the last time cold came and you didn't look away? Tell me, I want to know.